Even though we are still several months away from Halloween, I've got a pretty good idea for a scary movie. Picture this. You wake up one morning, it's a dark, cloudy kind of day, and then you suddenly notice it feels like your organs are falling out of you. Ah! That sounds awful, right? That's actually a really common diagnosis that we treat in pelvic floor physical therapy, and it's called a pelvic organ prolapse. Hi, I'm Becky. Welcome to Wellness in the Pelvis. I'm a pelvic floor physical therapist and a mom, and I'm here to help you understand more about your body. Like I said, we're going to talk about prolapse today. Different kinds, what they are, and what you can actually do to hopefully help it get better. This is a very broad topic, and we'll have other videos about this going forward. But at least to get started today, let's shed some light on what's going on down there. There are several kinds of pelvic organ prolapses. We won't get into all the details today. I think that would be worth covering in more depth in a future video. But the general concept is, if we look at our model pelvis here, and you've got all your different pelvic organs, bladder, reproductive, and bowels, sometimes these aren't as stable inside of the pelvis as what they could be. And that's when we feel this descent or that sensation of falling out. And so, just very briefly, if you had something going on with your bladder, it would be called a cystocele. So the bladder's falling down. And then here are the female reproductive organs. We can talk about men too. But in women, if the uterus is falling down, that's called a uterine prolapse. And so it'd be falling into the vagina. And then the end of the digestive system, the rectum, or the end of the large intestine, this is either called a rectocele if the rectum is falling forward into the vagina, or it's called a rectal prolapse if the rectum and the anus are actually falling out of the anal opening. So two different ways that you could have something going wrong with your rectum. This is a very common diagnosis in women, especially because if the bladder, uterus, or rectum are falling into the vagina, then obviously women are going to experience that and not men. However, men are prone to prolapse, especially like a rectal prolapse, and other kinds of issues as well. But for the most part, we treat a lot of women that experience this problem. When I say that your organs are falling into your vagina, it's not like you're actually going to be able to pull your bladder or your uterus out of your vagina. That would be a whole nother level on our horror movie. But what happens is, if we use the bladder as an example, and the bladder sits right in front of the vagina, and if it's not as well supported in the body, it kind of rotates and pushes into the vaginal wall, and then you get the sensation of like a bulge or heaviness or dragging inside of the vagina. So if that's kind of confusing to you, let me know. I'm happy to answer more questions about that. But your organs, the actual bladder isn't actually falling out, but it's just not as well supported. If we look at the pelvic organs here, what we're missing are several of the support structures that you have built in on the inside. And so you've got ligaments that actually hold your organs to the bones of the pelvis. Ligaments versus tendons versus other stuff. I know this is like 8th grade science coming back, and you definitely don't remember the difference between the two. For the most part, we think of ligaments holding bones to other bones, but you also have ligaments that actually help hold your organs to your bones all over the body, not just inside the pelvis. So how I compare a prolapse to make it sound a little bit less scary is, it's kind of like if you sprain your ankle. If you sprain your ankle, the ligaments that help hold your bones together get a little stretched. And the problem is, once ligaments get stretched, they don't unstretch well. They aren't very elastic. So once that happens, we need to rely on other things to help give that support where it was lost. So if you sprained your ankle, some of the things that you would do to help your ankle feel better would, one, be to exercise the ankle muscles around the bone to help strengthen that part of the body where that support is kind of lost. The second thing that you could do would be to wear an ankle brace, to help give some support. Like if you're gonna go on a hike or a run or something, your ankle's kind of bothering you, you'd wear an ankle brace. And then the last option, if things just got really banged up, if you had some really epic story, probably involving a bear chasing you and you had to run for your life and you sprained your ankle, because there's always a bear if it's like a really epic story, right? Then you may need surgery to help put that together. Treating a pelvic organ prolapse is usually the same thing. We start by trying to strengthen the muscles of the pelvic floor, so doing pelvic floor exercises. If that's not helpful enough, you can have what's called a pessary, which is kind of like an ankle brace that goes inside, if you're a woman, goes inside way up in the vagina to help push out against the vaginal wall to give some support to those organs again. And if those things aren't really helping, or if it's just too severe, then having surgery to then basically give some support back to the organs where you lost it with those ligaments. For the most part, though, a prolapse is very treatable with pelvic floor PT. The one downside, though, to having a prolapse, kind of like an ankle sprain, like I said, is you can't unsprain an ankle after you've stretched out those ligaments. And so the same is true for the pelvic organs. If you've lost that support and you feel that dropping, we can't give that support back with those ligaments. Once it's gone, it's gone. However, you really can be symptom-free. My job as a pelvic floor PT is to help you no longer have symptoms, or at least really reduce how often you're having them. Just like, again, like an ankle sprain, there are also a couple ways that we treat a prolapse if you're coming in for pelvic floor PT. And so, like I said, one of the ways you can help improve your prolapse is to strengthen, but some of the other extra things that we do in pelvic floor PT are, of course, strengthen the pelvic floor muscles, take some pressure off the prolapse, but then also help you understand how you are holding your posture and putting weight through the pelvis, and then also using gravity to help. If you sprained your ankle, you're probably not going to say, I think today's the day I'm going to start doing double Dutch jump roping and just jump a ton on my ankle. That sounds like a really good idea. So the same thing is true with the pelvic floor. We need to help you be aware of how much pressure you're putting down through the pelvis. And so helping you understand how, like, the breath matters to take pressure off the pelvic floor, or jumping, or other things, running or other high impact activities, how that is actually impacting your symptoms as well. Although it would be pretty cool to do double Dutch. Are people still doing that? Is that like a thing anymore? And then the last thing that we do to help with your prolapse is, just like if you sprained your ankle, you'd prop your leg up. You'd let gravity help pull some of that swelling away, take pressure off the ankle, or whatever it is that hurts. Same thing with the pelvic floor. I'll often have my patients lie on their backs or prop their hips up with pillows or put their legs up on the wall. Gravity can actually help pull things back down, because all day when we're upright, gravity pushes down on our pelvic organs and our pelvic floor muscles. But if you can at least lie flat on your back or prop your hips up some, it will help pull these organs back up and give the muscles a break. So basically, my job as a pelvic floor PT with prolapse is to tell you to be lazy and rest. It's not a bad gig. People kind of like that. There is so much more to know about pelvic organ prolapses and how pelvic floor PT can help. Let me know what other questions you have down below, or if you've been experiencing a prolapse, what have you done that's been helpful? Don't worry about that like or subscribe thing. It's not really my thing. I'm just here to help you understand more about your body. If that's something you're into, watch more videos. Hey, thanks for coming. I'll see you next time. Thanks.